Grace wiped down the marble kitchen counter for the third time that morning. Everything had to be perfect. That's what Mr. Wexler expected. That's what Grace always delivered. She'd been working in the giant mansion for 2 years now. 2 years of polishing floors, so shiny you could see your face in them. 2 years of making sure young Ethan's room stayed clean and his clothes stayed ironed. 2 years of being invisible. Grace didn't mind being invisible. She had 3 kids of her own back home in a tiny apartment across the city. This job paid for their food, their school books, their dreams. So she cleaned, she cooked, she smiled, and she stayed quiet. "Good morning, Grace." Ethan bounced into the kitchen, his backpack hanging off one shoulder. He was 8 years old, with messy brown hair and a smile that could light up the darkest room. Grace loved this boy like he was her own son. "Morning, baby," Grace said warmly, setting down a plate of pancakes. "Eat up. You got that math test today, remember?" Ethan groaned but sat down. He poured syrup all over his pancakes until they looked like a swimming pool. Grace shook her head and smiled. Mr. Nicholas Wexler walked in next, his phone pressed to his ear, his expensive suit perfectly pressed. He was a tall man with tired eyes and gray hair at his temples. He worked all the time. Grace barely saw him smile anymore, not since Mrs. Wexler had left last year. Yes, I'll be there by 9, Mr. Wexler said into his phone. He grabbed his coffee without looking at Grace. She was used to that. Ethan took a big bite of pancakes. Then another. Then he stopped chewing. His face went red. "Ethan," Grace said, putting down the dish towel. "You okay, honey?" Ethan's eyes grew wide. His hands flew to his throat. He tried to speak, but no words came out. Only a terrible wheezing sound. "Ethan!" Grace screamed. Mr. Wexler dropped his phone. "What's wrong? What's happening?" Ethan fell off his chair onto the floor. His lips started turning blue. His whole body shook. Grace dropped to her knees beside him. Her heart hammered in her chest. She'd seen this before. Her own daughter had allergies. This was bad. This was very, very bad. "He can't breathe." Grace cried. "Call 911. Now!" Mr. Wexler fumbled for his phone, his hands shaking. Yes, emergency. "My son, he's choking, or I don't know." Grace looked at Ethan's blue lips. 12 minutes. That's how long the brain could go without oxygen before damage started. Maybe less for a child. The ambulance would take at least 20 minutes to get here. They lived far from the city, up in the hills where rich people had huge houses far apart from each other. 20 minutes was too long. Ethan would die. "Where's his EpiPen?" Grace shouted. "Does he have allergies?" I don't know, maybe the bees?" The doctor said. "Check his backpack." Mr. Wexler ripped open Ethan's backpack. Books and papers flew everywhere. No EpiPen. Ethan's shaking got worse. His eyes started rolling back. Grace made a decision. The kind of decision that changes everything. "I'm taking him to the hospital," she said. "The ambulance is coming. He'll be dead before they get here." Grace scooped Ethan into her arms. He was heavy, but fear made her strong. "I'm driving him. Now!" "Take my car. The keys are—" But Grace was already running. Mr. Wexler's regular car was in the shop. The only vehicle in the garage was a Ferrari. The bright yellow Ferrari that cost more than Grace would make in her entire life. The Ferrari that Mr. Wexler loved more than anything except Ethan. Grace burst into the garage. The Ferrari sat there gleaming under the lights like a dragon made of gold. She'd never driven anything fancier than her old beat-up Toyota, but that didn't matter now. She yanked open the door and laid Ethan across the passenger seat. His breathing came in short, horrible gasps. His face looked gray. "Hold on, baby," Grace whispered, tears streaming down her face. "Just hold on." The keys weren't in the car. Of course they weren't. Mr. Wexler kept them in a lockbox in his office. Grace didn't have time for that. She looked up. There, hanging on a hook by the door, a spare key on a Ferrari keychain. Grace grabbed it with shaking hands. The engine roared to life like a lion waking up. The whole car vibrated with power. Grace had no idea how to drive something like this. She barely knew where the pedals were. An alarm started screaming. Red lights flashed everywhere. The garage door was closed. The security system was armed. Grace didn't care. She pressed buttons until the garage door started grinding open. Too slow. Too slow. Come on, come on, come on, she yelled. Ethan made a gurgling sound. His body went limp. No. Ethan, stay with me. Stay with me. The garage door finally opened enough. Grace slammed her foot on the gas pedal. The Ferrari shot forward like a bullet. She barely got it through the opening. Metal scraped against metal with a horrible screech. She didn't care. She didn't care about anything except the dying child next to her. The tires squealed as she flew down the long driveway. Behind her, more alarms blared. Cameras swiveled to follow her. She'd just stolen $1 million car from a billionaire. She'd just thrown away her job, her reputation, everything. But when she looked at Ethan's blue lips and closed eyes, she knew one thing. She'd do it again in a heartbeat. Grace's hands gripped the steering wheel, so hard her knuckles turned white. The mansion disappeared behind her as she raced toward the main road. The city hospital was 12 miles away. 12 miles between Ethan and life. 12 miles between Grace and whatever came next. She pressed the gas pedal harder. The Ferrari screamed forward into the morning sun. And Grace prayed harder than she'd ever prayed in her entire life. The Ferrari flew down the hill road like a yellow lightning bolt. Grace had never driven this fast in her life. 60 miles per hour. 70. 80. The car felt like it wanted to go faster, like it was built for speed. But Grace's hands shook on the wheel. One wrong move, and they crashed into the trees that lined both sides of the narrow road. Ethan, baby, talk to me, Grace begged, glancing over at him. Open your eyes. Please. Please open your eyes. Ethan didn't move. His chest barely went up and down. His lips looked purple now. Grace's heart cracked in half. She'd raised this boy, fed him breakfast every morning, helped him with homework, tucked him in at night when Mr. Wexler worked late, which was almost every night. Ethan had once asked her, Grace, are you my second mom? And Grace had hugged him tight and said, I'm whatever you need me to be, sweetheart. Now she was his only chance at life. The car's GPS screen lit up. Turn right in half a mile, a calm robot voice said. Grace wiped tears from her eyes so she could see. The road curved sharply. She took the turn too fast. The tires screamed. The whole car tilted to one side. For one horrible second, Grace thought they would flip over, but the Ferrari held steady. It gripped the road like it had claws. Grace's heart hammered so loud she could hear it over the roaring engine. I'm sorry, she whispered to Ethan. I'm so sorry. I should have checked the pancakes. I should have asked about allergies. This is my fault. But even as she said it, Grace knew it wasn't true. Nobody had known Ethan was allergic to walnuts. Mrs. Martinez, the cook, must have put walnuts in the pancake batter. A tiny amount. Too small to see. Too small to see. Big enough to kill. Grace hit the main highway. Cars haunted her as she weaved between them. She didn't slow down. She couldn't. Her phone rang. It was connected to the car speakers. Mr. Wexler's name flashed on the screen. Grace, where are you? What are you doing? His voice filled the car, angry and scared at the same time. I'm taking him to St. Mary's Hospital. Grace shouted over the engine noise. He stopped breathing, Mr. Wexler. I had no choice. You stole my car. The police are, Grace, you need to... I don't care about your car. Grace screamed. Tears poured down her face. I care about your son. He's dying. Silence on the other end. Then quieter. Is he still? He's alive. Barely. Grace's voice broke. I'm doing everything I can. I'm going as fast as I can. Grace. Mr. Wexler's voice cracked too. Please, save him. Please. I will, Grace promised, or I'll die trying. She ended the call and pressed the gas pedal to the floor. The Ferrari shot forward even faster. 90 miles per hour. 100. Grace had never gone this fast. The world outside became a blur of colors. Other cars looked like they were standing still. "You hear me, Ethan?" Grace said, her voice shaking. "You're going to make it. You're going to go to school today. You're going to take that math test. You're going to come home and tell me about your day like you always do." Ethan's head rolled to the side. A thin line of drool came from his mouth. "No." Grace reached over and shook his shoulder. "Stay with me. Don't you dare leave me. Your daddy needs you. I need you." The GPS spoke again. "Hospital is 2 miles ahead." 2 miles. 2 more minutes. Could Ethan last 2 more minutes? Grace prayed. She prayed to God, to the universe, to anyone who was listening. "Take me instead," she whispered. "I've lived my life. He's just a baby. He's got his whole life ahead of him. Take me. Let him live." The rain started then. Big drops that splattered on the windshield. The road got slick and shiny. Grace turned on the wipers. They moved back and forth, like a heartbeat. Like the heartbeat Ethan barely had anymore. Grace saw the hospital sign up ahead. St. Mary's Hospital. Emergency entrance. 1 mile. She was so close. But traffic ahead of her slowed down. Cars bunched together. Someone had stopped in the middle of the road. "No, no, no." Grace yelled. "Move. Get out of the way." She honked the horn. The Ferrari's horn sounded angry, like a battle cry. Cars slowly pulled to the side, but not fast enough. Grace looked at Ethan. His chest had stopped moving. Time stopped. The world went silent. Grace couldn't hear the rain, couldn't hear the engine, couldn't hear anything except the blood rushing in her ears. Ethan wasn't breathing. Something wild took over Grace. Something fierce and unstoppable. She was a mother bear protecting her cub. She was a warrior going into battle. She was love turned into pure determination. Grace yanked the steering wheel hard. The Ferrari jumped onto the sidewalk. People screamed and dove out of the way. Grace didn't care. She drove on the sidewalk, past all the stopped cars, past everything in her way. The hospital entrance appeared like a miracle. Grace slammed on the brakes. The Ferrari skidded across the wet pavement and crashed into a row of metal barriers with a horrible crash. The airbag exploded in Grace's face. Pain shot through her nose. Blood filled her mouth. But she was already moving, already throwing open the door, already pulling Ethan out of the passenger seat. "Help!" she screamed. "Somebody help." Doctors and nurses came running out of the emergency entrance. They wore blue scrubs and concerned faces. "He's not breathing." Grace cried, laying Ethan on a stretcher they wheeled over. Allergic reaction. His airway closed. "Please, please." The doctors swarmed Ethan. One checked his pulse. Another tilted his head back and started pushing on his chest. A third ran back inside, yelling, "Get a crash cart! Now!" Grace stood there covered in blood from her broken nose, rain soaking her uniform, watching them work on a child she loved like her own. Then she heard sirens. Police cars screeched into the parking lot. Red and blue lights flashed everywhere. For officers jumped out, hands on their guns. "Get on the ground," one shouted at Grace. "Hands behind your head." Grace looked at them, then at Ethan, then back at them. "I had to save him," she said quietly. "On the ground now." Grace got down on her knees on the wet pavement. The rain fell on her head. Her hands were pulled behind her back. Cold metal handcuffs clicked around her wrists. "You're under arrest for grand theft auto," an officer said. Grace didn't resist, didn't fight, didn't say a word. She just watched the doctors wheel Ethan inside through the emergency doors. One of the doctors was doing chest compressions the whole way. Another was squeezing a bag over Ethan's face, trying to get air into his lungs. The door swung closed. Ethan disappeared inside, and Grace sat there in the rain, in handcuffs, not knowing the child she'd risked everything for would live or die. A police officer pulled her to her feet. "You have the right to remain silent." But Grace wasn't listening to him. She was praying that her desperate gamble had worked, praying that Ethan would open his eyes again, praying that stealing $1 million car and breaking every rule in the book had been worth it. Behind her, the yellow Ferrari sat crumpled against the barriers, steam rising from its broken hood. It had been the most beautiful, expensive car Grace had ever seen. Now it looked like a crushed toy. But Grace didn't care about the car. She only cared about one thing. And that one thing was fighting for his life behind those emergency room doors. Grace sat on a hard plastic chair in the police station. Her hands were still cuffed in front of her. Her uniform was soaked. Blood from her broken nose had dried on her face. She didn't care how she looked. She only cared about one question. Was Ethan alive? Nobody would tell her anything. The police officers typed on their computers and talked on their phones, but they ignored her when she asked about the boy. 2 hours passed. Then 3. Grace's whole body ached. Her heart ached even more. What if Ethan had died? What if she'd been too late? What if her wild drive through the city had been for nothing? The thought made her want to scream. The door burst open. Mr. Nicholas Wexler stormed in like a thunderstorm. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His hair stuck up in weird directions. His eyes were red. Grace's heart sank. He looked destroyed. Ethan was dead. She knew it. She could see it in Mr. Wexler's face. Where is she? Mr. Wexler demanded. Where's Grace? An officer pointed at her. Mr. Wexler walked over. His hands were in fists. His jaw was tight. Grace prepared herself. He was going to yell. He was going to call her a thief. He was going to make sure she went to prison for the rest of her life. She'd stolen his precious Ferrari. She'd destroyed it. And worst of all, she'd failed to save his son. But then Mr. Wexler did something Grace never expected. He dropped to his knees in front of her, and he started to cry. Thank you, he sobbed. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Grace's mouth fell open. What? Ethan's alive, Mr. Wexler said, tears streaming down his face. The doctor said, they said if you'd arrived even 2 minutes later, he would have died. His brain would have been damaged forever. But you got him there. You saved his life. Grace couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything except stare. He's alive, she whispered. He's alive, Mr. Wexler repeated. He grabbed her cuffed hands in his. Because of you, you saved my son. You saved my whole world. Grace burst into tears. Big, ugly, grateful tears. Thank God, she sobbed. Oh, thank God. Mr. Wexler turned to the police officers. Take those handcuffs off her. Now. Sir, she stole your vehicle. I don't care. Mr. Wexler shouted. His voice echoed through the whole station. She saved my son's life. The car means nothing. Take the handcuffs off. An officer hurried over and unlocked the cuffs. Grace rubbed her sore wrists. I'm sorry about your Ferrari, she said quietly. I know it cost. Grace. Mr. Wexler looked at her with eyes full of emotion. A car could be replaced. My son cannot. You made the right choice. The only choice that mattered. He stood up and pulled her to her feet. I need to tell you something, Mr. Wexler said. When you called me from the car, I was angry. I was thinking about the Ferrari, about the security system, about what people would say. And then I realized something. He paused, his voice shaking. You've been taking care of Ethan for 2 years. You feed him. You make him laugh. You help him with homework. You tuck him in at night. And I'm barely there. I work all the time. I miss his school plays. I forget to ask about his day. Mr. Wexler wiped his eyes. You acted like a mother today. Like the mother Ethan deserves. While I was worried about a stupid car, you were worried about my son. You risked everything, your job, your freedom, your life, to save him. Grace didn't know what to say. I'm the one who should be sorry, Mr. Wexler continued. Sorry that I never saw you, never thanked you, never realized that the most important person in that mansion wasn't me. It was you. If you're feeling the emotion of this story, hit that share button and let others experience Grace's incredible journey. 1 week later, Grace stood in the Wexler mansion's living room. But this time, she wasn't wearing her maid's uniform. She wore a beautiful blue dress that Mrs. Martinez had helped her pick out. The whole staff was there. The cook, the gardener, the driver, everyone. They all smiled at her. Ethan sat on the couch, fully recovered. When he saw Grace, His face lit up like the sun. Grace. He jumped up and ran to her, threw his arms around her waist. They said, "You saved me." Grace hugged him tight. "You scare me half to death, baby." Dad said you drove his Ferrari really, really fast. Faster than I've ever driven anything. That's so cool. Mr. Wexler walked into the room. He wasn't on his phone for once. He smiled at Grace. "Everyone," he said, raising his voice, "I want to say something." The room went quiet. A week ago, something happened that changed my life forever. My son almost died. And Grace, He paused. "Grace, my son's guardian angel, saved him." Everyone clapped. Grace felt her face get hot. "I've been thinking a lot this week," Mr. Wexler continued, "about what matters, about who matters, and I've made some decisions." He looked at Grace. "Grace, you're fired." Grace's heart stopped. Around the room, people gasped, but Mr. Wexler was smiling. "You're fired as a maid," he said, "because I'm promoting you. From now on, you're Ethan's official caregiver and family manager. Triple your old salary. Full benefits. And I'm setting up a college fund for each of your 3 children." Grace's legs almost gave out. "Mr. Wexler, I can't." "Yes, you can. And that's not all." He pulled out a piece of paper. "I've started something called the Grace Foundation. It will train emergency responders in quick action techniques. It will support working families who can't afford health care. It will help people like you, heroes who go unnoticed every single day." Tears rolled down Grace's face. "And one more thing," Mr. Wexler said softly. "I'm cutting back my work hours. I'm going to be home for dinner every night. I'm going to make it to Ethan's school plays. I'm going to be the father he deserves. The father you showed me I should be." He walked over to Grace and took her hands. "You didn't just save Ethan's life that day," he said. "You saved mine too. You reminded me what really matters. Not money, not cars, not success. Family, love, the people who show up when everything falls apart." Grace couldn't stop crying. Happy tears this time. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll stay," Mr. Wexler replied. "Say you'll keep being the amazing person you are. Say you'll let us be part of your family, the way you've always been part of ours." Grace looked around the room, at the smiling faces, at Ethan watching her with hopeful eyes, at this strange new future opening up before her. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I'll stay." The room erupted in applause. Ethan ran to her again and hugged her tight. "I love you, Grace." "I love you too, sweetheart," Grace said, hugging him back. This story proves that one brave choice can change everything. Subscribe to hear more incredible true stories that will restore your faith in humanity. 3 months later, Grace stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. News cameras pointed at her. Reporters wrote down her every word. The mayor stood beside her, smiling. Grace had never imagined being here, standing in front of everyone, being celebrated instead of invisible. The Grace Foundation officially opens today, the mayor announced. Thanks to Nicholas Wexler's generous donation and Grace Thompson's inspiring vision, we now have a rapid response training center that will save countless lives. People clapped and cheered. Grace stepped up to the microphone. Her hand shook a little. "I'm not a hero," she said. Her voice came out softer than she meant. "I'm just a mom. And when I saw a child in danger, I did what any mom would do. I acted." She looked out at the crowd. Some people were crying. "But here's what I learned," Grace continued. "Every single person has a moment where they have to choose. Will you follow the rules, or will you follow your heart? Will you play it safe, or will you risk everything for what's right?" She paused, thinking about that terrifying morning in the Ferrari. "I chose to risk everything. And yes, I broke rules. I broke laws. I crashed $1 million car. People laughed. But I saved a life. And that's what matters." Grace smiled. "So my message to everyone watching is this. Don't wait for permission to do the right thing. Don't let fear stop you. Don't let rules designed to protect things keep you from protecting people. When someone needs help, help them. When someone is in danger, save them. Be brave. Be bold. Be love in action. The crowd stood up. The applause was deafening. Grace looked to the side of the stage. Mr. Wexler stood there with Ethan. They both waved at her. Grace waved back, her heart full. She thought about her journey. From invisible maid to celebrated hero. From poverty to security. From silence to having a voice that people actually listened to. All because of one desperate drive in a yellow Ferrari. All because she chose a child's life over a car. All because love won over fear. As Grace walked off the stage, reporters surrounded her. They asked questions. They wanted interviews. They called her an inspiration. But Grace's eyes stayed on Ethan, on the little boy who was alive because she refused to give up, who smiled because she fought death itself and won. That's all that mattered. That's all that would ever matter. One life saved. One family changed. One woman who proved that courage doesn't need permission. It just needs heart. Don't let this powerful story end here. Share it with someone who needs to remember that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when love guides their choices. And subscribe for more stories that will move your soul. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is break the rules to save a life. Grace Thompson reminded the world that heroism doesn't come from wealth or status. It comes from a heart that refuses to let someone die on your watch. Her story spread across the nation, inspiring countless people to act with courage when it matters most. The Grace Foundation continues to train emergency responders and support families in crisis, turning one woman's desperate act into a legacy of hope. Because at the end of the day, people matter more than things. Always.